Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us during your lunch hour. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping notes. You'll see that we are in full webinar mode today, so you are in view and listen only mode. But we want to make this interactive, so feel free to use the chat to connect with fellow volunteers and friends you recognize. It's wonderful to see the Eagle monitoring community come together here today. If you have questions during the presentation, please use the Q&A feature, and we'll reserve about 15 minutes at the end to address them. We're also recording today's session so we can share it with folks who couldn't join us live, and you can watch it again for further reference. All right, let's dive in. I want to take a moment to recognize something truly remarkable that you all have been a part of. 38 years ago, New Hampshire had 0 nesting bald eagles, 0. And now, thanks in large part to the dedication of volunteers like you, people who've been out there in all kinds of weather year after year, watching, documenting, and caring, we now have over 120 active nesting pairs across our state. That is an extraordinary conservation success story, and you are the authors of it. So thank you, truly. For those of you who may be newer to our community, I just wanted to remind you that New Hampshire Audubon is a state-based environmental nonprofit, completely independent from National Audubon. We rely on members and donors like you to support our charitable mission, which rests on 4 pillars: connecting people to nature through environmental education like school programs, nature day camps, and webinars like this one; researching and conserving species in peril, from large raptors like our eagles to our smallest songbirds; managing about 10,000 acres of wildlife sanctuaries throughout the state for both habitat protection and public recreation; and finally, advocating for sound environmental policy in the New Hampshire State Legislature. I'm able to be here today because of supporters like you. We also rely on an incredible network of volunteers, including all of you who assist with wildlife monitoring, ambassador animal care, environmental education, and sanctuary stewardship across the state. Thank you for being a volunteer member and supporter of New Hampshire Audubon. We simply couldn't achieve our mission without you. If you'd like to inspire others to become part of our conservation family, please send them to our website to explore ways to get involved. Now, as we look ahead, we're entering an exciting new chapter for this program. Many of you have built deep relationships with the places you monitor and the eagles you've watched raise generation after generation of young. You know their territories, their habits, their stories. The decades of data you've already collected have given us an incredible foundation to understand New Hampshire's eagle recovery. And now, starting in 2026, we're introducing a new tool to help you document what comes next. That's NestStory, a platform designed to help you tell your nest story going forward. Starting this season, it will keep all your observations in one place so you can build a record over time, revisit your entries, and remember all those special moments, and share your findings with others. At the same time, it helps us more easily summarize trends and gain new insights into New Hampshire's eagle population, building on the incredible scientific foundation this program has created over the past 3 decades. Today, Michaela Johnston, our new avian biologist, is going to walk us through how NestStory works. Michaela, as you know, is stepping into some very big shoes left by Chris Martin, and we are thrilled to have her leading this next phase of the program. What makes Michaela especially well suited for this afternoon's training is that she's actually used NestStory in one of her previous positions, so she knows the platform inside and out. She's worked across New Hampshire and beyond, from shorebird conservation on Massachusetts' North Shore to helping revise New Hampshire's Wildlife Action Plan over the past 2 years. And she brings both deep field experience and a genuine passion for making conservation work accessible and meaningful. I know change can feel uncertain, but I hope you'll see NestStory as a tool that enhances the work you already love and helps ensure that the stories you've been writing in the field continue to inform eagle conservation for decades to come. So, let's get started. Michaela, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Mark, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. I'm Michaela. Thank you so much for that very nice introduction, Mark. As he said, I am taking the place of Chris, who has obviously been here for a very long time. and is an extraordinary leader in conservation in our state. So like Mark said, some big shoes to fill, but Chris and everyone else at Audubon have been extremely helpful getting me on board and making me feel comfortable, as have many of you. I know a lot of you have already emailed me and reached out to introduce yourselves, which is really great. So I'm very excited to be in this position and to get to know all of you. So I'll jump right into talking about where we're going with the bald eagle monitoring program, as Mark has already started explaining. And like Mark said, we recognize obviously that this is a relatively big change for a lot of you. I know a lot of you have been doing this with Chris for many, many years. So we understand that it can be a difficult transition, but we just want to remind you that aside from doing this webinar today, I'm going to be here every step of the way for you guys. If you ever need help, you can always email or call me. So I also just want to say too, how inspiring and encouraging seeing how dedicated you all are to this program has been, especially as a new staff member. It makes me really excited to be a part of the team and to work with you all. So along with that, I know obviously how dedicated you all are and how much these birds mean to you. So I'm hoping after today and after going through NestStory, once you guys, get a hang of it, that you will, sort of come to appreciate that this transition is going to essentially help us be able to use you guys' data that you dedicate a lot of time to collecting for us. Make sure that data is having the biggest impact on our bald eagle population in New Hampshire. So it's going to help us not only at New Hampshire Audubon, but also at Fish and Game and our other state and federal partners, as well as other nonprofits that we work with. It's going to help us keep our data secure, be able to quickly and easily share the data with our partners so we can make sure that we're making quick conservation plans and decisions as they arise. And basically overall, it's going to help us make sure that us and our partners are implementing our conservation work in the most effective way possible. And again, like I said, like Mark said, we can't get that done without the dedication of all of our volunteers, all of you guys. So you guys are a very important part of this conservation success story. So Mark has moved us on to, we're going to start talking about NestStory itself now. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of an overview and just a couple of slides here, and then I'm going to share my screen. And we're going to actually go through what a typical day in the field using NestStory will look like. Again, this is all going to be recorded, so you can always come back to reference this. And I sent out a document with some instructions, like a user manual. You can follow along in that as I'm, going through this, but that's also going to be a great resource for you all. That'll also be posted on our Bald Eagle webpage on the Audubon website. Okay, so what is NestStory? Basically, it's a designed to be user-friendly and secure data collection and management system. It allows wildlife managers like ourselves at Audubon, as well as some state agencies that use it, to monitor large populations of wildlife easily and in real time. And like I said before, it is helping us ensure that your valuable field observations that you're spending lots of time out in the field collecting are making the biggest possible impact for our bald eagle populations. So I'm going to go over, these are a few key terms that you'll hear me say as I'm going through NestStory. There's also a glossary on NestStory, which I can show you, and also in that instructions manual that I mentioned that explains each of these as well. But I'd say these are like the 4 key terms that you'll want to know as I'm going through this today. So a field day is basically what it sounds like. It's your day out in the field observing your bald eagle nests. You might see on NestStory in the glossary, it is also referred to as a long day. So those are the same thing. And next is a mission, which is your site visit. So we'll call it a site visit or a mission, same thing. You can have multiple missions within one field day. So you may start your day in the morning and go out to a few different sites across the state. So you can have multiple missions within one field day. A site is just a geographic area where one or more nests are located, or it could be, in some instances that I'm sure you guys are familiar with, it could be an area that's just suspected of having a nest. So we might have a territorial pair in an area, but we haven't found the nest yet. So that would be what's called a site. And then next is a nest check. So when you actually go to a site and you are looking at an active bald eagle nest, that is your nest check. So that's when you're recording your observations on NestStory, which I'm going to show you. If there's more than one nest at a site, so think like Winnipesaukee, for example, you can have more than one nest check within your mission or within your one site visit. And Mark, you can advance to the next slide. So to help you sort of visualize this, I took this from the NestStory website. Basically, this is exactly what I just explained. So we have our field day can encompass multiple missions, and one mission can encompass multiple nest checks. So like we'll walk through this. So say you're starting your day in the morning, you begin your field day on NestStory, which I'll show you how to do. And you head out to your first site and you start a mission once you get to your site. Let's say you have 2 active nests at that site. Again, say we're at an area of Lake Winnipesaukee. You'll be doing 2 different nest checks within that mission. And this is just where you're recording your observations, what you're watching the birds do. Let's say you finish up here and you decide you're going to go to another site. You're still within the same field day. You drive down to another site. Let's say you're going down to Derry. I'm going to use Derry as an example today because that's where I'm from. And you're going to check out Big Island Pond. This is a site that we have birds and we get observations from this area, but there isn't a known active nest yet. So this would be an instance where you are starting a mission or a site visit, but you're just recording observations of what you see going on at that site. We don't have a nest yet, so it's not a nest check. Okay, so again, we have the field day as our day as a whole when you're out in the field observing. You can have 1 or more missions or site visits within your field day, and each site visit could have anywhere from 0 to however many number of nests at that site. Okay, so that, Mark, if you want to just advance one more. There you go. So that's what I was just explaining. This is just the sites that we know that there are birds, but the nests haven't been found. Okay, so now I'm going to start sharing. Okay. All right. So this is what NestStory looks like. So in most cases, you guys are going to probably be out in the field. A lot of folks use NestStory just on their phones. It's going to look basically the exact same as it does on a desktop. Some people also use like tablets, like you can use an iPad if you'd like, so your screen's a little bit bigger. But basically, it's not an application that's downloaded on your phone. You're going to go to your web browser and log in to NestStory. And before I start, I just want to note none of you will be able to go log on to NestStory quite yet. Once this webinar is over, I'll have to go in and manually add each of you. So you'll each get an email invitation to create your account, and then you'll be able to log in to NestStory and see all of this. So again, no one will be able to log in quite yet, but that'll be coming in the next week or so. Okay, so this is what the home page of our New Hampshire Bald Eagle NestStory looks like. So I'm just going to walk through what we see on this page first. So we're going to start up in the top left-hand corner. You see these 3 horizontal bars. If you click that, that is like your main menu for NestStory. So you can navigate the site with this main menu. As you'll see, the 2 main areas that really you guys will be using that you really only need to worry about are the field and my stuff, which I'll talk about. Also on this main menu, you'll see there's a little button for help down below. You can also get to the help page down at the bottom of your home page right here. So I'm going to bring us to the help page real quick. So Jim, who is our contact and runs NestStory for us, has made these amazing video tutorials that I highly suggest you guys go in and watch. These are sort of like the key ones to getting started. We have like this overview one that will be very helpful. This is where the glossary is, and there's this great quick reference field guide that's also posted on our website. You will not see this where it says administrator. Those are just available to myself. But if you scroll down a little more, you'll see lots more video tutorials that you can watch. I'm going to be hitting on most of this today, but some of these will go into a bit more detail. If you need a refresher on anything, I highly recommend that you look through these when you have the chance. Okay, so that's our help center. We want to go back to the home page. I just clicked on that navigation bar in the top left corner. Oops. I'm going to go back to home. That brings us here. Then you'll see next to that little home or navigation bar, you'll see a nice little icon of a bald eagle. Since we are only using NestStory right now for bald eagles, that's all that will be here. When I was a shorebird monitor, for example, in Massachusetts, we monitored a few different shorebirds, so you were able to like switch between species here. But we're just dealing with bald eagles, so that's all you'll see there. Here you'll see the current year. Since we're starting in 2026, there's no past years to display here, but as we continue on in 2027 and beyond, this will update. And then all the way over in this right-hand corner, you'll see this little calendar icon. And this, if you click on it, is what is called the date faker. And this is, as it explains here, essentially a tool to let you trick NestStory into thinking it is a different date. So let's say you went out in the field yesterday, you didn't have, you weren't able to enter your data while you were actually out in the field, and you weren't able to do it when you got home. So today you want to enter in your data from yesterday's field day. You can go here and change your date, set fake date, and you'll have this warning that pops up, and it will say fake up in the corner to remind you. And then if you want to get out of that, you just click on the icon again. Okay. And again, this is in those video tutorials on the Help Center page that I just showed you. And then the next thing I want to show you, and this is how I'm going to go through NestStory today, is what's called test story mode. So if you click this, you have this big red bar that comes across the top, tells you you're in test story mode. And as it explains down here, it essentially lets you play with NestStory in a sandbox. So it's like a copy of our actual NestStory, but you can play around on it. You can go into the field, you can start a mission, do a site visit, do whatever you want, and none of it will save. So you can mess around on it however you want to help you practice. I'm going to keep NestStory on today because we're going to be pretending to go out in the field and create a mission. So again, highly encourage you to also use NestStory to get more comfortable with NestStory prior to going out in the field. Okay, so like I said, the two main areas that you guys will be focusing on is field and my stuff. I'm not going to go over these two, desktop and back ender center, right now. Desktop is more for myself, like running reports and things like that throughout the season, so you don't need to worry about that. And back ender center, there's a video tutorial about this as well that you can watch, but we're not going to go into that right now. So we're going to start in the field. So let's say you get to your site, you're ready to start observing. You log in, you're going to click on the field. So it brings you to this page, and this is starting your field day. It'll automatically populate what the current time is. If you need to adjust it for any reason, you can click on where it says time, and you can select what time it is. You'll see here as well that there's an area for your mileage. This is not required, but we're strongly encouraging that you guys fill this out because we still need folks to record their mileage on Volunteer Impact, which is our volunteer management system. And Mark, feel free to jump in at any point with this because you know this very well, but essentially having our volunteer hours and miles tracked is very important for us for receiving grants from our partners at Fishing Game. And it essentially unlocks money for us through some of our contracts.
That's
Mark,
it exactly.
anything?
No, that's it exactly. Pam and I were just working on the next Fish and Game contract, and you all and the time and mileage that you spend monitoring these birds and others, like Michaela says, unlocks dozens of thousands of dollars for us to do this and to do other projects. So we really appreciate and rely on your time and mileage. And this is just one, I think, very easy, probably the easiest way to track that, even though you have to take it from NestStory and put it into Volunteer Impact later on. So thank you.
And if anyone has questions about Volunteer Impact, you can reach out afterwards and I can help you with that. And Anita is our coordinator for that, so I'll make sure to loop her in as well. Okay, so once you have filled out the time and your mileage, it also says you can leave this blank and then just enter in your total miles at the end of your day if you prefer to do that as well. So we're going to begin our day. Click this big green button. Now you'll see that across the top we have this blue bar, and that tells us that we have started a field day. It tells us the active date and the time we began, and then there's an end button. And it will automatically bring you to this page to prompt you to begin a site visit. Eventually, this drop-down list will have all of our bald eagle sites, our nest sites, and the sites that you guys are observing at, but we may not have an active nest located yet. You'll see that these are sort of like codes. I will make sure that I provide you all with like a key so you can figure out which site is which. We'll try to make them as self-explanatory as possible. But I will provide you all with that. So again, there'll be a big list here of all of our nesting sites. Like I said, I'm from Derry, so I chose 2 of our Derry sites. Beaver Lake is a new nesting site from this past field season, I believe. So we're going to go with that. We select Beaver Lake. If you have other volunteers with you, you can type their name in here. Since no one's added yet, if I start typing, nothing's going to show up, but you'll be able to add your fellow volunteers here. So they'll be included on the mission as well. Not required, but an option if you'd like to. Okay, so now we're going to begin our site visit or mission. And now you'll see it brought us to this new page. So this is our site visit homepage, essentially. You'll see that this blue bar across the top updated to say which site we are at and the time we began our site visit or mission, as well as a button to end the mission. So we're just going to walk through what you see here. So depending on the site, like I said, you could have a site that doesn't have any known nests. This little section here will not be showing up if you are at a site that doesn't have any nests yet. You'll just have the option to add observations down below in notes. But for most sites, you're going to have one or more nests. I think the majority of them are probably just going to be one nest that shows up. Beaver Lake is one of those sites. We just have one nest in that geographic area. Okay, so you'll see your nests listed out. But up at the top here, you'll see you have the option, if you click on weather, it will automatically populate with weather data from the nearest station. If this isn't required, but it's sort of like a nice to have, God forbid something happened to a nest, we have like a nest loss or something like that. If maybe the temperature was really high that day or there was snow or something, having the weather data could help us sort of piece the puzzle together. If you want to add the weather data, you have to actually click on this button and then hit save. You can also edit these as you'd like. So you hit save, and now that will be included in your mission. Later on, you can go back and see it. Okay, so let's look at our nest. You'll see here it says nest last checked and it's blank because we haven't done any nest checks yet. It will give you the status of the nest is unknown, which I'll explain what this means, how many eggs were last seen, and how many chicks were last seen. Again, we haven't performed a nest check yet, so these are zeros. This information will retain from whoever last checked this nest. So if some other volunteer was looking at this nest yesterday, whatever information they put here is going to be retained. If we click on our nest, it'll now bring us to this page. So this is like our nest check page. This is where we fill in all of the information about that particular nest, all of the observations that you guys are making. You'll see here that there's another little summary. The nest was last reported with a status of unknown, 0 eggs and 0 chicks, no adults. Again, that's because we haven't done a nest check. Otherwise, this will update with the previous nest check information. You can also see that, I'm going to scroll down real quick, under recent checks, any other volunteers' checks will show up here as well. So if you want to get a sense of what's been going on at a nest, you can scroll down and look at these and get a quick summary. So we'll go back up to the top. And NestStory is really great because it is essentially just going to walk you through the data that you need to collect. So as you scroll down this page, you just hit each section one by one. So the first thing is the nest status. So in the glossary that's in the Help Center, as well as in that instructions manual that I shared with you all and will be on our webpage, there is little definitions for each of these different nest statuses. They're pretty self-explanatory though, as you'll see. So unknown is sort of the one exception. So this is for if you visit a nest and basically you see no adults, no chicks, nothing's going on at the nest. You can then update the nest status to unknown. Otherwise, the rest of these you'll see sort of move in a linear timeline of the breeding season. And this is important to note because essentially once you move on to one step of the breeding season or the cycle of breeding, we don't want to go backwards. And I think the best example is, say, Mark was out in the field yesterday. He saw a bird incubating. Now the nest status is set to incubating. And when I log on today, that status is going to be maintained. So now I know that they're in the incubation stage. But say today I see one of the adults bringing nesting material to the nest. We don't want to then move it back to nest building, even though, they're still updating the nest. We want to think of this as linear timeline we can only move forward on, okay? So once you set to incubating, you don't want to go back to nest building. And again, the only exception to that, regardless of what stage you're on, if you get to a nest and nothing's going on and you don't know where the birds are, then you can set it to unknown, okay? So let's say we're out in the field, we're at Beaver Lake, and we see the birds incubating. I'm going to update the nest status to incubating. The next thing for us to fill out is the number of eggs observed. So for bald eagles in particular, 90% of the time, you're not going to be able to see into a bald eagle nest and see how many eggs there are, unfortunately. So in those instances, you're almost always going to be selecting this little dash icon. That basically means unknown. We don't know how many eggs there are. The way to think of this is it's eggs observed, not eggs assumed to be there, right? So unless you can physically see into the nest and you can confirm with your eyes that there are 0 eggs, we're going to put it on the dash icon. The exception to this is I just set the nest status to incubating, and I actually am looking at a bird sitting on the nest incubating. We can update this to ink. Okay. Next is chicks observed. And this one's pretty self-explanatory, right? If they're still incubating, the eggs haven't hatched yet, we set this to 0. It's important that you don't leave either of these sections blank, because this will help us with analyzing and understanding the data later on. If you don't see any chicks, you can just click 0. If you suspect that the eggs have hatched, maybe the bird is moving around in the nest looking down, but you don't actually see a chick, you should still keep this at 0. But as I'll explain down below, you can make a note that you suspect there may be a chick in the nest now. So then when the next person goes out to the field, if they review your previous nest check, they'll see, oh, Mark thought that maybe the eggs had hatched yesterday. I should keep an eye out for a chick. Okay, so now the next section is the adults observed. It's important to note that these are the adults of the breeding pair of that nest that you're observing. If you have a random interloper adult or immature bird show up, I'll show you down here under observations, there's an option to make note of that. But this is just for recording the male and female of this particular nest. So let's say we get to the field, we see the bird incubating, but I can only see the top of their head. I don't know if it's the male or the female. I'm going to set this to unknown. We know it's one of the adults for that nest because they're incubating. We don't know which one. What I'll do next is you'll head down here under add observations. We have an unknown adult who is incubating. Now you add observation. So what I just did is this first drop-down menu is basically, who are you observing? Which bird is it? You can have an unknown adult, one of the pair for that nest. You can make an observation for the pair itself, so both of them. The male, just the female, a nestling, a fledgling. If you have multiple fledglings and you want to differentiate between one and the other, you can do that as well by calling them fledgling 1, 2, 3, or 4. Or you can just call them fledgling. And then here is where I mentioned if you see some other adult that is not the adult of this particular nest, this particular nesting pair, you can make note of that here. So maybe it's an aggressive interloper or it's just an interloper. He's just hanging out and not bothering anyone. You can make note of that here. And then once you select who it is you're observing, you can go over to the next drop-down menu and you can select from this long list of behaviors. So this really helps us sort of like paint the picture of what's going on at each nest, and we can go back and look at this in real time and see what each pair is up to. And it gives us this information in a nice, clean, and organized way. Also in the glossary, like I mentioned before, these are pretty self-explanatory, but if you want a little more detail on what each of these is intended to mean, you can look at the glossary in the help section on NestStory or in the instructions manual. So let's say we saw a friendly interloper. He was just flying by. Select flying. Don't forget to click add observation. Okay, now I'm going to scroll down. I'm scrolling over this, but we're going to come back to this. Scrolling down a little bit, and the automatic lights in my office just turned off, so I'm going to see that. Sorry about that. Okay, so we scrolled down, and now you see this attachment section. We have notes and photos. Notes is where basically I think the best way to think about this section is this is where the text that for our veteran volunteers, what you would be sending to Chris in an email. That's where this can go. You can enter in notes in a bunch of individual notes. You can do one big long note at the end, however you prefer to record your observations. It's fine. When I was using NestStory, I would just keep taking individual notes as I was observing the birds. But whatever you guys prefer is totally fine. So I would make a note here that I arrived at site and observed incubating adult. Sex unknown. Then we click save. And then a little while later, I saw an interloper flew overhead heading south. And you can say perhaps nesting pair did not react. The more details you include, the better. It helps us, again, paint the picture of what's going on, tells us about, like in this instance, maybe this nesting pair is, not bothered as much. They're pretty tolerant by interlopers flying by versus another pair who reacts negatively. Again, just helping us paint the picture and put all of the pieces of the puzzle together when we need to. Okay, so those are our notes. I'm going to come back to photos in a moment. If you want to edit your notes in any way, you just click on this little gear icon. If you want, say you make a typo, or you want to add something to a note, just click on this little piece of paper. Your note will pop back up. And you hit save. You can also click on the gear icon and add a location. I'm going to explain the location when we talk about photos in a moment. This is a little, redundant, I guess, but still helpful. You can add a photo to your note if you want by clicking this icon, or it's probably easier to just add a photo down here. However you prefer to do it, it's totally fine. This little icon is for adding info about banded birds. We're not going to talk about that right now, but I know that some nests have banded birds, so we'll sort of deal with that as we come across it. This little icon of the hand is to sort of tag someone. So if you want to like notify me of something or you want to notify another volunteer, of something that you observed, you can use this. And then if you want to delete your note, you can use this X. Okay, so I'm going to go back up. I made my notes, recorded what I've observed so far. This is one of the most important things to remember. This record it button is essentially clicking save in a Word document, for example. I would say best practice is as you're observing things, continue to input what you're observing and then hit record it. That's basically saving everything I just entered. Then it brings you back to this nest check page, right? So say if there was another nest at this site, I could then go into that other nest, make some observations, record it. You can jump back and forth, which is nice if you're seeing birds of like 2 pairs at the same time. So now I'm sitting here, I'm watching the nest. I see something else happen. Another bird just appeared. Now I know that it's that I'm seeing both adults of this nesting pair. I can go back into my nest check. I can unclick unknown because now I know I have seen the male and the female. I see both birds. I can then scroll down and remove this observation if I want, and I can update my observations. So you have some options here. However you prefer to do it is totally fine. It's getting at the same information. We could just put adult pair, say we saw an incubation exchange, and just do it that way. Because then we know, for instance, the male was incubating and then he switched out with the female. We know they're both incubating. If you want to be extra thorough, you could go in and say adult male incubating, add observation, and then we saw the adult female incubating, observation. Okay, so you have a bit of flexibility there, whatever you prefer. Again, I think the more detail, the better, but we're getting the same information either way. Okay, so that's an important thing to know. Once you hit record it right here, you can always go back in and make updates. You can even, after you end your mission, log on your computer and say you forgot to record something, you can go back in and make edits. I'm going to show you that quickly as well. Okay, so I'm going to record it. And then I'm going to go back in. I'm going to scroll down. One other thing I want to note real quick is this drop-down menu for losses. If you get to a site and say the nest is blown out of the tree, you can report a nest loss. It'll then prompt you to fill in some information about the nest loss. You're probably not going to know if there was a clutch reduction, again, unless you're seeing into the nest, so you probably don't need to worry about that. And then if there was an unknown loss, say a chick disappeared, you can record that here. If there have been past losses for this nest, that will also show up here. And we're not going to worry about custom data sheets right now. Okay, so next, I'm going to show you how to add a photo. I am on a new computer, so that's going to depend on, I don't think I have a photo that I can actually add. But let's say, basically, if you're on your desktop at home, it's going to open up your files on your computer. If you are doing this on your phone out in the field, you can take a picture on your phone and then upload it from your photo library. So when you click add photo, one of those will pop up, prompt you to select which photo you want. You can only add one photo at a time, which I know might be a little bit of a pain for our photographers. But the good news is for our photographers, now you have a place to attach your photos for each of your nest checks, which will be really exciting. So I'm going to use this note above to demonstrate. It will look the same once you add a photo. So let's say I added a photo here. The same thing is going to happen. A little gear icon is going to pop up next to it. So you would click the gear icon, If you want to add a note to your photo, you would click on this first icon. If you want to add a GPS location, which is a cool feature, you would click on this little green pin icon. Okay, so it's going to bring you to this screen. There's instructions and step-by-step on how to do this in the instructions manual as well. And there's also a video, I believe, in the Help Center. So it's going to bring you to the screen. The first thing you need to do is turn on this little power button. You have to allow your browser to get your location. And there we go. Okay, so it'll show you where you are out in the field. You can see I'm at the McLean Center right now. And you have this button here, which sort of zeroes in and like makes your location a bit more precise. So like when I was out in the fields watching shorebirds, I would usually use this to kind of update my position as I'm moving along the beach. Okay, so now let's say that you want to add a marker to show where this photo was taken. And I'm going to note as I say that if you're taking a photo, say, of an eagle and the eagle is over here in this tree, I think it would probably be best if in those instances we put a marker on that tree so we know basically where the subject of our photo is as opposed to where you were taking the photo itself. Okay, so now let's say I want to add a marker. Click Add Marker X. You're going to get a little error message basically that pops up. It says you must turn off heartbeat to manually control the location. Okay, so that's something that I always forget to do. You'll have to make sure that your heartbeat is turned off before you can add a marker. Okay, so now you see it's grayed out. Add a marker is going to put the marker where you're standing. But I want to make a note that the eagle that I took a photo of is actually in this tree over here. So I drag it over and then just hit Set Location. Don't forget to click Set Location. You'll see that that updated our lat long up above. And then just don't forget to hit Update. And now if you can see, it's in small font, but now there is a lat long coordinates associated with this note. If you did it with the photo, down below, it would be the exact same process, and you would have lat long associated with that particular photo. Okay, so you can do that for both photos and notes. Okay. So now I'm going to say record it because I just added that latitude and longitude. And now let's say I'm done for the day. I'll note too that you'll see our nest status updated to incubating, the number of eggs that we saw updated to ink, and it remains at 0 chicks because we put 0 chicks here. And you'll also have a little green icon here showing that you have done your nest check for that site. Okay, so now I'm all done with my day. You'll see as well that you can add notes and photos to the site visit, so this page itself. I'd say these are best for like general observations about the site itself. As an example, when I was doing plover monitoring, if a beach was really busy, that's my site that I'm at, I would make notes here under the site visit as opposed to under one particular nest. So these are a bit more general. You don't have to put things here, but if you want to add some more general observations, you're free to. But if you're making specific notes or taking photos of a specific nest, then we want to put those under the nest check itself. Okay, so now let's say I'm all done for the day. I'm going to go up to the top and I'm going to click End. This is going to end my site visit or my mission. It will save the time. It tells you when it began. Just click End Visit. Now it's going to bring us back to our field day page. Remember, this was the first page that came up once we began our field day. You see there's still a blue ribbon across the top of our screen. If I was then going to go drive to another site to look at a new nest that's not at Beaver Lake, I could then, once I get there, begin a new site visit or mission, right? So say I went to Big Island Pond. I would select that here, click begin visit, and do the same thing all over again. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say we're just observing Beaver Lake today. So I'm going to also end my field day. You'll see this pops up and says end volunteer field day. If you click it by accident, you can always just hit cancel. And here you can put in your total mileage. So now we're going to end our field day. And it brings us back to that first page that we were on when we clicked field. Now you can see there's nothing up here that says end or no information about our active nest site. So we know that we've ended both our field visit, or sorry, our site visit and our field day. Okay, we can now go, I'm gonna show you one last thing, to home. And let's say you're a photographer. You recorded your observations while you're out in the field, but you took your pictures on your camera. You can go to My Stuff, and you'll see that your recent activity will come up here. Okay, so this is the one that we just walked through together. There's a couple different ways to get to where we're going here, but I'll just show you. So you'll see it under recent activity. You would also see it under recent checks. But we can just click view. I'll show you first, sorry. We'll click edit. This just allows you to edit the time and the date. And if you want to add who was with you. So that's just, a couple little pieces of data you can edit. If we want to edit more about the mission, click view. It will bring us to this page. Okay. Wherever you see a little pencil icon, you can click it and make updates. It'll also ask you why you're editing it. That just helps us with data integrity. And then you'll also see where that particular nest check was. Okay, so we want to add photos to that nest check. We're going to click on the name of the nest. See again, you can update any of the information that you entered. You can add observations if you forgot to enter one. You can delete observations. And here are our attachments. So you can see the notes that we had added. And then if you want to add your photos that you took on your camera, now you're on your laptop or your desktop computer, you just click add photo and it'll open up your files. You can select your photo and then just hit open. And then it'll appear here. You can add lat long to it. You can add coordinates. You can add a note with your photo by just clicking the little gear icon that appears and so on. You'll see there's no record it button. Since this isn't like an active nest check, it will just automatically save. Just return to activity, and then you'll be all set. We don't need to worry about any of this right now, and you don't need to worry about the extra stuff. So really the most important thing for you guys, if you go on the My Stuff page, it's just going to be making updates to your field days or to your nest checks. And I'm going to turn off test story mode. And that's it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Michaela, for demonstrating all the clicks to get to where we need to go to be able to understand what you all are seeing out there in the field. So now we have some time for Q&A, and I see a couple in the chat, but I'm going to jump ahead of all of those because I've had a question since the very beginning, and it's about the person. If I had a friend, I don't know, call him Chris Martin, and we're going out for a nest check. Should we just collaborate on one data entry for both of us to enter? And what would happen if we both made the same observation?
Yeah, I would say in that instance, you just one of you would want to start a field day and then a nest check.
Okay,
If you both started one, then we're basically gonna have double the data.
gotcha.
If you guys did that and then you realized it afterwards, you can just tell me and I can go in and delete one of them.
Awesome.
But yeah,
Thank
if
you.
you have more than one volunteer out in the field, one of you can be the recorder, and so just one of you will start a mission and actually record the observations.
Awesome. Good deal.
Good
And
question. Thanks, Mark.
yeah, of course. And in the Q&A, I see Matthew had a question. Are there any plans by the developer of the NestStory site to create an app? And that person is here, and he answered in the chat, thank you, Jim, no, not currently. So again, this is all web browser based. And we could get you off mute if there was more to say, but if you wanted to. And then Scott, oh, Jim?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Yeah, quickly. We have had apps for NestStory in the past. They've been too problematic because there's too many different NestStories, and the App Store treats each one as a new piece of software. Um, and there's just too many NestStories with too many different customizations, too many different species, too many countries. So we do it web-based, and it's worked out really well for everybody, minus the tiny annoyance of not having a nice home button and stuff like that we
Mm-hmm.
can show you how to add one to your phone if you need to.
Gotcha, gotcha. So yeah, so you're saying that this Nest story for New Hampshire is unique to us, and you built it just for us. And the Nest story, say that New Jersey Audubon uses, is just completely separate and different.
Yes, it's a platform, but a big part of it is data security and customization to New Hampshire. And
Mm,
so, yes, you are completely isolated. This Nest story is just for New Hampshire's bald eagles.
awesome. Thank you so much, Jim, for your
You're
support
welcome.
and building this out for us.
Yeah, Jim has been awesome making this all customized for us. And I'll just note, like Jim just said, there is a way, like when I was doing shorebird monitoring, you can make sort of a little shortcut on your phone. It
Hmm.
looks like an app icon basically. So when you click it, it will just bring you to this URL. And we can show folks how to do that at another time as well. Or I can put up instructions even on our website.
Yeah, that'd be a great follow up. The next one that came in from Scott, are there any thoughts on using Nest Story for other species? I monitor one of our peregrine nesting sites. Michaela?
Yeah, I mean, Mark and I have very briefly talked about it. It wouldn't be for this year. We're going to see how it goes with bald eagles, which I'm sure it's going to go fine. Um, but yeah, I guess we'll see how it is with bald eagles, like what kind of kinks we need to work out, how our volunteers like it. But I think it would be great to expand it to um, other species that our volunteers are observing. Like Mark mentioned briefly, like New Jersey, for instance, uses this for their bald eagles. Um, so, so yeah, so we can certainly use it for more than one species in the future.
Yeah, we're just going to walk before we run.
Yeah.
Joe had a question. Is there any way to display a complete list of sites and their current status? Near the tail end of the season, Chris usually sends me a handful of nests that haven't been updated or in some cases haven't been visited at all. Having this visibility earlier might be helpful. So essentially like prioritizing where Joe goes to the non-visited sites. Is that a feature?
Yeah. Um, so I know that on my end, I would be able to go to the desktop and see. Am I still sharing? Are you still able to see my screen?
Yep, yep.
Okay. So if I clicked on desktop, um, this says unknown because that's the Beaver Lake site that I just put in for our purposes today. Jim, can you tell us, would any of the volunteers be able to see this data as well? This is basically a summary of all of our nests, and it will update throughout the season.
Yeah, and there's one thing from your presentation I wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
In general, there's two classes of users. There's a field user and then an administrator. So generally, all the volunteers are going to be field users, which means they have access to the field tool and to my stuff to edit their own data.
Okay.
The desktop feature is for admins, but it can be shared with any of the participants that you would like it to be. That's
Okay.
that's a personal preference. You can share the ability to see nest reports, to see spreadsheets, and to access the desktop generally. The other clarification is that each individual user is assigned to their own nesting sites. So an administrator has access to all the nesting sites in the state, as it should be. But if you signed me up today and I only did Winnipesaukee, in general, you would only assign me to Winnipesaukee for two reasons. One, it's easier. I go out and I only have one site to deal with. And two, for security and things like that. It's again, this is maybe we should have this conversation offline, but generally states don't allow all their participants to see the locations of all their bald eagle nests. I should strike that. Actually, some like Maryland allow the public to see the locations of all their nests. So it's really a personal choice. How you set it up. But to answer your specific question, or who was it? Was it Thomas? Or yeah, well, somebody asked, sorry, Joe.
Joe.
There is a map that does just what you were looking for. So if you click on maps, for example, and so this is the assignment map, for example. So click the assignment map. And this will show you your nest locations. You only have a couple set up in here, I can see. But this will tell you which of your nests are being covered and which ones aren't. So this is an administrative feature to see what nests are even assigned to anybody. Is there anything falling through the cracks? If you click the choose map up in the top left and select sites, this will show you all of your sites and the current status of each of the nests. So right now, these are, let's see what they say.
And click it.
Yeah, click it and it should pop up. Yeah, it'll tell you where it is. As you start fleshing these out, you'll be able to see what nests haven't been checked in a while, which ones are incubating, which ones are fledged. That's what this section is for. It's to allow you to look at your entire population and kind of see what's falling through the cracks, really is what I think is the biggest use of this part of NestStory. For a large number of nests like you have with bald eagles, you can see kind of where do I need to send some people. And I think that's really what Joe was asking about, to be able to have that visibility early to see what's not getting seen.
Right.
And you could do that here.
Perfect.
Very cool.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Jim. That's very helpful.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So I guess then we'll probably, Mark and I'll probably discuss like how we want to handle viewing where the different nest sites are. And we'll probably just like be in touch with who is, if we decide to do assignments, who's assigned to what. But I would say regardless, I was planning to regularly like check the status of our nests and send out updates to all the volunteers. So I think that would also kind of get at that if there is a nest that hasn't been checked yet, or we need, a more recent check on, hopefully get that way as well.
Nice. Thanks for answering that question. And Thomas had another one, and just to enunciate it for the recording, if one of two people records, then can the second person edit or add photos to that shared observation? And Jim answered it right there in the Q&A. No, you can only edit your own data in My Stuff. So if you are a photographer pair, make sure that you are the one that is kind of owning that site visit.
Probably not the most convenient, but if you had, like, say one of you had additional photos that you want to, add to the Nest check, you can always email them to each other, and then
Right.
whoever ran the Nest check can then add them for you.
Yep.
And this is administratively, it's a decision for you, Michaela, over time, but they both can run missions. The two hypothetical photographers could both run their own missions, even though it's the same visit.
Okay. Would that like double the data?
It would double the data, but essentially, what matters is for that particular date, let's say, the statuses are going to be the same.
Right. Okay.
And yeah, so I mean, again, that's why I said it's kind of administrative decision. Different people do it differently.
Yeah. Okay, well, so I know that we have a lot of photographers, so I think if that's the case, if you are both taking photos and you both want to have your own missions to add photos to, I think that that's fine. I think we can just do it that way. And it may help just to make a note somewhere in your mission. You can tag the person like I showed you, or even just in the field day note section, just say, I'm with Mark or I'm with Chris. So we know that you guys were together.
Cool. Thanks, Michaela. And Renee has another question that maybe you can show her how to do this. How do I enter an immature or subadult within an observation?
Yeah, there isn't a. So are you referring to basically like an interloper? I'm guessing. That would just be selecting from that drop down menu where I showed it said like friendly interloper or aggressive interloper. You can add the observation there, and then I would just make a note down below and say that it's a subadult, and any other information that you want to add.
Yeah, and Jim put in the chat to us via a site visit note.
Yes.
And that's for the site visit note is for the situation where the situation where the nest itself is not active and you just happen to see a subadult at the nest.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Renee, does that answer your question, or do you want to go off mute and clarify?
Yeah, I think it does. Thank you.
Sure.
I did have one other question, I guess, while I'm unmuted.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, when uploading like photos, do you prefer a specific like file size and file type? I know photo file sizes can take a lot of storage space. I don't know how much you have. So if we're all uploading photos, if there's a preferred.
Yeah. Jim, do you have any thoughts on or experience with that from other
Yeah, well,
stories?
I'm glad it came up. I do have some bad news, which is, NestStory is about maximizing the value of your data and is focused on the eagles and productivity. It's not really meant to be used as a photo storage site, for example. And in general, again, because we're a nonprofit and we're supporting organizations like yours all over the world, every photo costs something to us. And we generally encourage people to only add photos that document what's happening at the nest. Now, I say this because we all know the photographers who would happily upload 20 photos of the eagles sitting on the nest that were all essentially the same, because they're their photos and they love them, which I totally get. I appreciate it. I'm a wildlife photographer too. So yeah, so generally that's the purpose. It's you want to keep your photos as small as you possibly can. To think about that this is really about the nest story exists really to help eagles, and to help the people who manage eagles and to help the people who monitor the eagles. So yeah, so those were kind of my general guidelines. Keep them as small and lightweight as you possibly can, and try to keep them focused on documentation of important things at the nest. But don't let me discourage you either, because we want you to, Michaela did a great job of showing you, we need status, eggs, chicks, and adults. That's what's needed to know, are there changes in the population? What do we need to do? How is the species doing? All those really important questions that NestStory answers. But we also know that these are your stories. You're out in the field. These are your birds, and NestStory is a place for you to track, their life history and your thoughts about what's going on and the interesting things that happen. And we encourage you to use the notes and the photos to do that. So is that a good answer?
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Yeah, thanks, Jim.
And photographers, I know you send Chris your photos often. Please feel free to continue sending them to me as well, because I've been saving them. Chris has folders organized for each site, so I've been doing the same thing. It's good for us, especially when we're doing talks and presentations. And I like seeing you guys' photos. So, like Jim said, if it's something that tells a story about what's going on at the nest, absolutely upload it. But if you have additional ones that you took when you were out in the field, please do keep sending them to me.
Yeah, and one other thing I'll mention about photos is NestStory hyper compresses everything that you upload, because it's making an effort to minimize the data usage of everybody who's using it out in the field. They don't, if somebody pulls up the Nest Check while they're out in the field to see what's happening, they don't want to use up all their bandwidth consuming photos.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, and I guess a related question, if you can go into this question from Matthew and Patty. Patty asked if NestStory can be somehow used offline in the field where there's bad or no cell coverage, and then have the info uploaded back in a spot with Wi-Fi.
Yeah, currently, no, not in the version that you're using. You would, if you have spotty cell service, you basically remember your observations. I'm sorry, I misunderstood her question. And the field mission, the nice thing about the field mission is you can run it at home on a desktop, just like Michaela just did, the same way you would run it in the field. So you would back enter it when you return home. At some point, we may upgrade your version to one that functions offline, but this one in New Hampshire requires self-service to use it live in the field.
Gotcha. Yeah, and Michaela and I had started talking about that last month. Is like, do you have like a paper version just so people check all the boxes when they get home? They can fully upload a whole mission, or is that
Yeah,
something we could generate?
yeah, we do have a template for that, and we've hit up some donors. We want someone to print us a NestStory notebook, which is basically a paper version, with waterproof paper that you can use for those circumstances.
That would be cool.
That would be great.
Going back to Thomas, is an interloper any other raptor or only other bald eagles?
Good question. I would say just other bald eagles. If you do see other birds, like say ospreys in the area bothering the eagles, that would be an instance where you could just make a regular note down below about that. If the eagles, like the breeding pair, are like disturbed by the osprey, then you can record that or capture that under the add observations area. So you could say like adult pair agitated or whatever the behavior might be. And then, yeah, add more details down in the notes. That's a good question.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. Darlene asks, is there a place to report banded birds here?
Yes, I didn't go over it, just 'cause I didn't want to go into too much detail, but it is in the instructions manual, and you'll see when you go into a nest check where it says male and female on the far right side, there's a little link to add band. So if you're at a nest and you see that the male is banded, then you can click that and add the band. And Jim and I are working on making, when you click on that, it'll basically have the information for the eagle bands that you guys would be seeing. So like the type of bands, because depending on the species, they have different colors and band types and things like that. If you are out in the field and you see a banded eagle and you don't know what to do with that information, or you can't figure out how to do it on NestStory, just always feel free to just email me.
I'll also add that, Michaela, you may have used this in Massachusetts because I believe they use it in shorebird monitoring, but there is another type of attachment in addition to notes and photos that's called sightings. And the sightings type of attachment is used to add bands to used to add the bands of birds who aren't the nesting pair.
Okay.
So if that's what Darlene was asking about, if you find you have a lot of banded interlopers or non-nesting birds, there's two options. One is you could add a sightings attachment to your NestStory, but that's a little complicated. But you can also add a band to a note. So I would take a note and add the band to the note.
Yeah, I think that would probably be the best option. Like I was showing you all, when you make a note, you click the little gear icon. It's like little orange circles, I believe, down towards the end of the screen that pops up, so you can add your bands to your notes. I think that would be the best. Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
And our next question comes from Ian. He asks, will historic data be uploaded when I make my first observation for 2026 for a nest I've checked for 20 years? Do I need to add background data on that nest?
That's a good question. I wasn't planning to have previous year's data uploaded, but I think it may be good for folks to have maybe even just the past few years history, even if it's not in NestStory, just so they know what's going on at those nests, or what had been going on at those nests. There's also an option, I didn't go into it, but we can sort of deal with it on a case by case basis, I would say. When you're in a nest check, up at the top, it will say nest location, and you can put in details about where the nest is. So that would be helpful for people that are, like maybe going out in the field for the first time to look for a nest. They can then click that and get some details on where the nest is. So since, we have some folks that are veterans and very familiar with certain nests, that may be some useful information for them to add. I'll follow up on that.
And I'll also add that most organizations after their first season, NetStory makes a lot of things easier. They wind up saying, okay, we want to put our back data in here. A lot of our Eagle and Peregrine people, going back to the original recoveries, have back entered their data all the way back into the 70s and 80s.
Oh, wow.
So it is possible to do. And if you ever want to do that effort, we're available to help work with you to develop a simple way to do it, a spreadsheet that we can kind of bulk load in there to put in some past history. So
cool. Okay, great.
Nice. Our next question comes from Renee. Yes. Any recommendations for mileage trackers? I'm not sure I understand the question.
To like automatically track it on your phone, maybe. I have used an app. I did pet sitting a while ago and I had to keep track of my mileage. And there's an app I used that was pretty good. I don't remember what it's called right now, but I can follow up and send an email to you all.
Yeah, I guess if that's the case, or if that's the question, I would just use my odometer and just write down the starting mileage and at the end of the day, because all of the driving in between counts for that match. And so just subtracting the starting from the ending mileage.
Yeah, and I'd like to touch on that too, just because in Michaela's demo, it might not have been entirely clear that when you launch your field day, I really think of you launch the field day when you leave the house.
Yeah.
And then you launch the site visit or mission when you arrive at the site. And
Mm-hmm.
you close the mission when you get back to your car, and you don't close the day till you get home.
Right.
And I really want to emphasize to everybody, there's going to be a learning curve here for NestStory. It's going to drive you crazy. You didn't need this. You didn't want this. You think it's some technology that's meant to make your life easier. And I'm going to tell you honestly right now, it is not made to make your life easier. It's made to make Mark and Michaela's life easier and the Eagles' life easier. Now, that's only a half joke, but seriously, the truth is most organizations, especially Eagles who start using NestStory, they find that their time and mileage increases, their matching increases a minimum of 50%. Sometimes it doubles. And it's just now that you've got a tool to accurately, once you learn how to use it, and it's just a couple of run throughs and you'll get it and it will be old hat and you'll come to love it. You're going to hate it at first, I promise you, but we're here to support you. Um, it's your, I can't tell you how valuable all of the time and all of the miles that you drive are so unbelievably valuable to the bald eagles. And all over the world, we're just throwing all that time and effort away. All of your love is, yes, it's helping your birds, but here you finally have an opportunity where every minute that you spend, every mile that you drive, is going to help eagles, not just all over the state, but all over the coast, all over the country, and all over the world. So I really, really encourage you to take that part of it seriously,
Mm-hmm.
because not to sound too crass, but it adds up to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars that can be donated towards helping the eagles. So it's really, really important stuff. Anyway, I just wanted to say that on topic here.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim.
Track those miles.
Yeah. And I see, Michaela, you have a special guest.
Special visitor.
Hi, I just want to say it's Chris Martin for those who might not realize. But Jim, what you've done by creating this NestStory is just tremendous. I hope you're being recognized for the contribution that this is making to raptor and bird conservation generally. And thank you so much for doing it. And I want to sign up for this program right away. So.
Thanks, Chris.
And we do have a couple more questions. If anyone has more questions, feel free to throw them in the Q&A. But the last one I see right now is from Ian, who is on a mission to find new nests. And so when he does find a new nest, how is that added to the database?
Great question. So like I said, we will have some sites that don't have active nests set up. And if that's the case, say you're at like Big Island Pond, for example, we have observations there, but we don't have an active nest. In that case, you would basically start a field day, start a site visit to Big Island Pond, and then you'll see right at the top in green, it says add nest. If it is not already an active site, I believe you'll have to and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you'll have to let me know, and we'll have to create a new site and add the Nest data in that way. So then it will be accessible to you when you log into NestStory.
Yeah, that is correct. If it's a brand new site, I would submit it to Michaela, have her set up the site, and then you can create the nest and the location and all that kind of stuff.
Awesome. Our next question is from Nora. How are you going to decide who to assign where? And what if we will be traveling away from our usual area and want to help out in case there is a nest needing a site visit near where we are going? Or do we email Michaela? Or will Michaela have an active spreadsheet accessible to us for unassigned nests? Essentially, a similar question that Joe posed, that if you're only assigned to this area, but you're traveling for some reason and you want to help out, how would they have access to those other nest sites? Great question, Nora.
Can I ask you, since you're here, Chris?
Well, I mean, I'd say it's to be determined how to organize this in a way that works best for our data collection needs. This is a work in progress. We're trying this for the first time, and 2026 is probably going to be a little bit bumpy. But I'm impressed with the system already. I think it's holds great promise, and I'm chomping at the bit to backload the historic data now. Help Ian out.
It's a fun retirement project.
In the past, have volunteers had access to all of the nest locations, or is it kind of a case by case basis?
It's been a conversation, basically. Other than our general maps that show geographically where these places are, but on a scale that don't include GPS positions. That's certainly something that's very shareable, even through 2025. So easy enough to show somebody or send somebody a JPEG or something like that includes that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see Nora said you could. Sorry, go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to read what Nora followed up with, asking each person where they live and where they would want to travel, and providing a little bit more access based on their geography and where they want to travel.
Yeah.
And our experience is that, generally this type of thing sorts itself out after 1 or 2 seasons. It's just a click for Michaela to add new nesting sites to your account. So, if you decide like, hey, there's this collection of nests and I'm kind of visiting my parents up there all the time anyway, it's literally 3 or 4 seconds to have you added, and then those are in your nest list. And it works itself out pretty quickly.
Great.
I think we've got one question in at the buzzer. To Jim's previous point of grants unlocked through the volunteer time logged, would it be helpful if we logged time we spent on data entry, photo uploading, etc. at home outside of a field day? Absolutely.
I like Renee. And
yeah,
actually,
for sure.
Renee, we didn't go over this, but in my stuff, and again, get comfortable with my stuff first. At the bottom is something called other stuff. And in other stuff, you can add entries like photo uploading, or another big one is maybe you drove an injured bald eagle to a veterinarian, something you wouldn't run a mission for, but you want to be tracked for time and mileage. That's in there. Oh, extra stuff. Yeah. Extra stuff. And those will go right into your reports, and you can count the time and mileage for the state.
Patty asks, does kayak mileage count? It counts as time, but I don't think the state would allow us to match your paddle strokes. So we are at 1:30. Thank you for all the questions and your attention. Really appreciate your time today. And thank you, Michaela and Jim and everyone who is involved in this. Really appreciate taking this on. And again, thanks to Michaela for her leadership in this new phase of the program.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jim. Again, I'm very glad you're able to join. This was super helpful. If anyone has more questions, Nora, feel free to follow up with me on your questions. Anyone else has anything, please feel free to reach out. Like Jim said, it's going to be bumpy at first, but I'll be here each step of the way to help everyone as we learn it together.
It's so easy. It's going to get boring real fast. You'll see. Just get over the hump. It's going to be great. And just wait until you see what it does for New Hampshire's Eagles. I'm so excited. This is a super multiplier on all of your love, on all your time and effort. You're really doing something with it. This is exciting.
Perfectly put, Jim.
Thanks, Jim. That's really encouraging.
Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll be in touch.
Thank you, everyone.